What is up, everyone? Scientifically Stupid here, and today I'll be teaching you how to make a planet in Blender. Now, when you start a Blender, you should get something similar to this. I have some of these tabs closed over here, so yours might look like that or something. I'm just going to turn on screencast keys. Okay, so first, what you're going to want to do is obviously delete the cube. You're going to do that on most projects. And you're going to add a icosphere as the planet, and actually I'm going to hit tab. Wait, when you first add in the icosphere, it should give you this subdivisions down here. I'm gonna change mine to 6, and you can see that makes it very nice looking ball. It's pretty smooth. Then you're gonna hit the smooth over here in shading, and if you don't see this tab over here, you can hit T and that'll come up. The reason you use an icosphere rather than a UV sphere is because if you have a UV sphere, you can see as you get closer to the top, the faces become triangular, and this is uneven since down here they're like squares and rectangles. So that's why you don't use a UV sphere. So to get started, I'm just gonna set up the sun, the lamp. Okay, so first what you're going to want to do is you can set the strength to around 5. I think that's a little much, so I'm just going to do 2.5. Is that good? I think that's fine. 2.5, and also I'm going to set the background for my world just to be black. And if you don't see it as I do, you can hit N, go to display, and check off world background so that it shows you a constant update of what your world background looks like. And also press 0 on the numpad to go to your camera view, or you can use the view down here. Press N and click under view, lock camera to view, and set up the view that you want. I'm just going to keep it like that. So now I'm going to select the sphere. I'm going to go to the compositing section, go into rendered view, and click new on the material. Now I'm going to add an image texture, and I'm going to reset it from flat to sphere since we're working with a sphere. And I'm also going to add a texture coordinates and connect the generated to the vector input of the image texture. Now I'm going to open up just a planet texture that I have gotten off the internet. If you can find these kind of textures anywhere. So if you just go into Google and look up like planet texture map, that should come out with the result you want. But as you can see, it's already looking kind of like a planet. I'll try to put a link to where I found this planet, but if I can't, it's really easy to just find. But I'm also, you can see this, so it already looks like a planet, but what we also need to do for the planet is add displacement, or make the high parts high and the low parts low. So I'm going to add a color ramp, connect the color output of the image texture to the factor input, and temporarily connect the color output to the diffuse node. And now you'll see it turns black and white. Edit the black and white until you have roughly what you want in your rendered view. Now when you connect this to displacement, the black parts on the planet will be lower in altitude and the whiter parts will be higher. So I'm just going to drag mine like this. And then when you're done with that, you can connect the image texture back to the diffuse and the color output of the color ramp to the displacement of the material output. Now as you can see, you can already see some displacement, which is good. That's what we want. So now I'm going to go to default, and I'm actually going to rename this planet. And I'm going to duplicate it, right click to put it back where it was. And I'm going to go down, I'm going to go to the scale, and I'm going to add 2 to the thousandths place in the scale. So 5.291, so now mine's going to be 5.293. So that'll just make it slightly bigger, and that's what we want. So I'm going to call this atmosphere. I'm going to go into the compositing section and make sure, I'm going to make sure that I have my atmosphere. Trying to find where my atmosphere is. Hold on. Let me just select the atmosphere in the world and then go to compositing. Why is that not working? Oh yeah, remove the material, the planet material from the atmosphere. I just realized that now. And click new. Now you're going to want to add a transparent texture, and also add a mix shader, and add in the transparent on the top. You're also going to want to add a layer weight and connect the facing output to the factor input of the mix shader. And I'm going to change the blend value to 0.1. Now, whatever color your diffuse is, that's going to be the tint of the atmosphere. So I'm just going to change mine to like a slightly orangish. And if you didn't know already, I'm doing this in cycles render. Why is that not working? I think it's, oh yeah, transparent goes on the top. Wait, right? Is that right? I think so. If it's not, we'll change it later. But now I'm going to go back to default view and make the atmosphere. Click M to move it. I'm going to move it to layer 3. I'm going to take my planet and move it to layer 2. And then I'm going to go down to the scene drop down and add a new scene and call it atmosphere. Make sure all 3 layers are selected. And why I have the planet selected, well, atmosphere, you're going to want that to be just the first layer and the third layer. And for the render layer, which is going to be the planet, you're going to want that to be the first and second layer. So you want to make sure the second layer is your planet, which it is, and that your third layer is the atmosphere, which is fine. Now I'm going to go back to the compositing section and go to the scene, check off use nodes and backdrop, and I'm going to add a viewer, and I'm going to duplicate this render layers and change it to atmosphere. Now before I do that, I'm actually going to go to default. Okay, sorry about that. My Blender just like not my Blender, but the recording software just shut off. My bad. But you're going to go back to the default view, select your planet, and go to the object data, and go down under relations and select the pass index and change it to 1, and go to your layers, your scene, and under the planet layer, select passes, and then check off object index. So now you can go back to your compositing, and you should see a new section under the render layers that says index obj, index object, and that's good. We'll use that later. For now, we're going to hook up these two so that they're connected by adding a mix node, changing it to add, and connecting the image on the bottom. And what you can do now is hook this up to both sides and then hit F12, and you can just render that on a separate tab down here while you're doing the rest of this. I'm just thinking for a second, make sure I didn't forget anything. I don't know why it's rendering out all the way black. If I go to default, why is that not working? Oh. Did I make sure? Wait. Is my planet on? Oh, my planet node got messed up. Well, I'll just create a new one really quick. So you don't have to go back if you didn't get this. I'm just gonna redo this really quickly. Sphere, and I can connect this up to there. Make sure I got these two layers selected. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know why that like deleted. Wait, does that mean that my atmosphere is messed up too? Because that's not going to be hard to fix. Atmosphere. Layer weight. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So now if I go to compositing, that's what the atmosphere looks like. Should be on planet. Now if I render that out, why is that just rendering nothing? Oh, I think I got it. Okay. So final. Okay, now that's working. Make sure that don't make the same mistake as I did. Make sure that you in the atmosphere, in scene it's got all three of these, but in layer it's only got these two. And same thing for planet, but with layers just 1 and 2. So now go back to compositing, and you'll see that in this render you'll have a slight atmosphere looking thing around that, and that's good. That's what you want. We're gonna add a slight glare to the atmosphere, so add in a glare node and change it to fog glow and low quality. Mix 1, threshold 0, and size 9. Duplicate that, change it to medium. Duplicate that and change it to high. Okay. So now connect up the image to connect the atmosphere image to all of the glares. And then you can, after this finish rendering, we can see it in the background, which will help. So, while that's working, we'll finish the rest of this. So, these won't really work exactly how we want it at first, so we're gonna have to add a blur, that's right, and change it to fast Gaussian in relative to the Y, and change it to 4%, and then duplicate it, change it to 2%, and the one with 4%, the low glare goes into it, and the medium glare goes into the 2%. So once you're finished with that, we can start adding, the stuff that mixes this together. So we're gonna copy this add node and plug the low blur into the bottom. Shift duplicate that, add the other add node into the top and the medium into the bottom. Duplicate that and do the same thing but with the high. Sorry. And then that will be ready once this render is done, which hopefully shouldn't take so long. But now we're gonna focus on a different aspect of this, and we're gonna add a ID mask, change the index to 1, and connect it to the indexed OB, or the index object of the first render layer, the planet. And also we're going to add a dilate erode to make that a little softer of a touch atmosphere. Change it to feather and change the distance to like -4 or something around there. And then you're going to add a I forget what it's called, color invert, I think it is. Yeah, an invert node, and plug that into the color. And hopefully, since it doesn't have to render that much more of the planet, this won't take very long. So it just has to render out these few frames, which are going to take the longest, that actually have the planet in it, and the rest of it is just completely black, so it shouldn't really have to render that much. See how fast it goes when it doesn't have to render the planet. So once we're done with this invert, we can plug it into the factor value of the medium and high add nodes from the what's it called? For the glare, yeah, that's the word. And then we're gonna duplicate the blur node, change it to 0.75, and just add the render layer from the atmosphere to it. And now we're gonna make a final add node, put it in the top, put the blur in the bottom, and then it should work out fine once it's finished rendering. So yeah, I'll be back when it's finished rendering. I'll be back when it's finished rendering. Okay guys, so finally this has finished rendering, and it should look something like this, but you can remember that we just set up all of this, so now let's just connect it up. So we'll connect this up to here, and it'll start loading, hopefully. And we did something wrong somewhere. Okay, yeah, so we got to connect this to here. So after that has loaded up, because before it was just mixing with white and it had a factor value of 100. So as you can see, now we finally have our planet and it is done rendering out. It is done with all that. And if we go to default, and this isn't gonna, you'd have to render it out, but you can get a rough estimate of where your shot is going to be. So I'm gonna have mine like around here. And the thing is, if you're zoomed out, it kind of looks a little better than if you're like zoomed in, because you can see all the ridges, because this is just a quick way to make a planet. So zoom out more, and then you can just set up all your rendering options and just render it out, and it'll look as good as it did in the compositing. So it'll look, oh, I can just show you here. You can just go to the UV image editor. Hopefully, where'd it go? No, that's not it. But that is the original mapping picture that I used. I will try to link it down below, I already said in the description, but you will get like something that looks like this. So that's just the basis for a planet, and you can comment down below if you want me to make a tutorial on like a host star for it, or just an entire solar system in general, and maybe possibly like a moon orbiting it. Now you can make animations out of this too, so like if I went to default 3D view, I could just keyframe its rotation, then rotate on the Z, just like 3,600 degrees. Wait, actually, I'm going to go to the very end before I do that. So like rotate Z 3,600 degrees, and then keyframe the rotation, and then if we actually looked at that rendered, you get the point, like it would slowly rotate around if I keyframed it right. Oh wait, the Z should be 3600. Then we can keyframe that, replace keyframes, Shift Z. So now in the, why is that? Well, you get my point. You can make like animations out of this, which is pretty cool. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Comment down below if you want like a host star or another tutorial on anything in Blender, and I will try to get a video out. So yeah, thanks for watching.